1 second. All right, here we
Good
go.
afternoon. So today we have DJ Fairley of EXP on board with us. DJ, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is good to have you here. So we talked with Matt earlier in the week, and I think it'll be good to have some of your stories corroborate his, but also kind of see what your experience has been getting into the industry. So I guess just to start with, if maybe you want to give some background and kind of how you got your start, I suppose.
Yeah, so went to school at Gannon University, which is where I met Mr. Matt Durbin playing football up there, and went into finance and economics. So really my path at that time, I thought I wanted to kind of get into financial advising. And kept that path through graduation until I got my first job as a financial advisor, which was cold calling 6 hours a day with 3 to 4 hours of study time for Series 6, 7, 63, all that good stuff. But it's funny how life, what you think, maybe something that is one of the worst jobs I've ever had, was actually the best experience ever, because it taught me to be absolutely fearless on the phone, because I was literally calling out of a phone book to try to get people to move all of their investments to a kid who was just out of college and really didn't have a lot of deep knowledge. So yeah, that was job A. And then
Trial by fire.
Well, yeah, and I made no money. It was literally get to 20 accounts, and then you start making money. And I remember I got to 20, I was so happy, and didn't make a penny. And then I'm like, why am I still not getting paid? And the goal changed, and I said, I'm out. So quit that, and then got hired by PNC Bank in the Strip District here at Pittsburgh. And it was more or less like an expanded credit program at the time. So on the mortgage side, for people that didn't necessarily have like A+ credit.
Gotcha.
So this was back in 2003. Did well there. Believe it or not, I was selling was $5,000 loans at 17.99%. But I got really, really good at it. I was selling about $500,000 a month in $5,000 loans, and then I started flipping them into refis, which I learned I wasn't allowed to do at the time. And I made a huge sale on a refi. They said I wasn't allowed, I wouldn't get paid. And I said, I don't understand. I did something good for the bank and for me. And that I wasn't going to have someone take my money. So left.
I'm out.
Can I ask something real quick on that? So like you mentioned in the very beginning, you're on the phone 6 hours a day, and you said you didn't have a ton of knowledge. What was, maybe if you can remember, like your mindset of doing that? Because so many people starting out in real estate, hey, that's the fastest way to get a listing or a sale is pick up the phone, cold call. Like what was that mentality like for you?
I think timing for me, it was the best, because I was literally just out of school. I was very, very motivated to work hard and make money. And actually I wanted to work, right? Some people get out of college and like, I want to travel. I'm not ready. Mm-hmm. I was very eager to start my career. And when you have 20 other guys in the room doing it, and all your leaders are saying this is the only way, there was never a choice. And I'm very, very competitive, right? So my whole life being around football and just wanting to win, I just told myself every day, like, you have to do this. Like there was never even an option. Like to me, doing that then, it's like being a dad now, right? Like when people say, well, how do you do it? You don't have a choice. Right. When you have no choice, then I looked at it as life or death. So that was it.
Yeah. And the intensity of that is, well, it's something that it conveys, but it's also like you went from playing football in college to the football of work life, which is boiler room cold calling sales with, right. You go from a locker room of guys you're making friends, and then you move into another environment like that, where there's 15, 20 people, you're sitting in the room talking to them all day, and you have the camaraderie, and it made you work hard. So after PNC, then, it sounds like two back-to-back experiences that were kind of similar, where you're like, yeah, I don't have any control over my outcomes here. And then you move into, what was the next thing?
Yeah. So actually after PNC, then I wanted to stay in the mortgage realm, and I heard that this is actually pretty funny. I started working back at Kenny Ross Chevrolet, believe it or not, as a car detailer, washing cars. So here's the kid with a college degree, and I got everybody making fun of me, like from the salespeople, the mechanics. They're like, aha, look at the college kid who Now he's washing cars again because I literally didn't have a job at the time and I had to make money.
Right.
And it was the only time that I literally did. I was embarrassed to even do this. I lived on the couch in my dad's basement for like 2 weeks, and then he kind of had enough. And in that 2 weeks, though, I was putting out resumes like crazy on monster.com. And I got hired by my father's company. So CIT, where my dad was the top guy in, actually, he was the number 2 guy in the country, number 1 in Pennsylvania 7 years in a row.
Wow.
So they hired me. I moved to Maryland. So it was kind of perfect timing. As he threw me out of the house, I also got hired. So I literally drove my car at the time, little Honda Accord, to Maryland. Knew nobody, got an apartment on a weekend, anything I could afford, started my job that Monday. So this all happened in a 3-day period.
Yeah.
And on the conference call, there's all the account executives. So I got hired as an outside account executive. And they introduced me in the Maryland office. My boss at the time, I'll never forget, her name was Lindsay. She's like, well, we're going to introduce the new employee, DJ Fairley. And my dad's like, I won't say the exact thing. He was like, what did you say? And then he realized that I got hired by his company. And then I called him after the call and said, you better hold on to your number 1 spot because I'm coming now for you. So that legit happened. So he didn't know I moved, didn't know I was in a different state, didn't know I got hired, and had a good career there. It actually worked out really well. I did do well. I didn't ever catch him. It's like being Michael Jordan's kid.
Yeah.
But I did get to the point where I turned the state into highly profitable, and then being young and not married, they said, we can move you 1 of 2 places. At the time, I think it was Tennessee or Miami. And I said, how about like Fort Lauderdale area? Because I already had some friends down there. So moved down to Lauderdale. And at the time, keep in mind, I know I'm all over the place a little bit here, but I had talked Matt into getting into mortgages because he was a financial analyst. And I was just saying that there's a lot of money to be made. So we were actually living together up in that Maryland, Virginia area. When I had gone to Florida, I started building that territory. And actually at the time, Matt's father had passed away. And I remember after being up there in PA and talking to him, his dad kind of told him, take some risks. Like life isn't always about playing the safe card. But I'll never forget that call. He called me about a week later and he said, I need you to save 20, 30 grand. And I need you to figure this out. I'm coming. And I, at the time, didn't have any money. And I made that money in a week and a half. So I literally worked 7 days. I called everybody I could, and I made $21,000 in 7 days.
Yeah. You can do that in real estate too. Right? Well, so just to recap, because I follow the story because I know both of your stories, but it's so you're living in Maryland, you start with your dad's company, you're successful there, build it up to being a more successful office in Maryland. Matt Durbin living in the DC area, you guys are obviously still very close because you went to college together. You're going to Florida first, working with that company, and he's not liking his job in the DC area. You guys are communicating. He says, difficult period in his life, his father passing away. We interviewed him. He talked about it a little bit yesterday too. That was the push, I think, for him. And he's like, listen, man, we're doing this. And so you're in Florida working with the same company. And then you left there to start the mortgage broker office with just the 2 of you, correct?
That's right. So I had left CIT and I was working for some guys doing mortgages as a broker when this occurred with Matt. And what he said, though, which I wasn't really ready for mentally, but I was all in. Like I'm a big risk taker. He's not as risky. So he told me, burn the boats. I'm coming. And we need money to do this. And I remember I knew I only had a very short amount of time. And, there's a lot of turnover in that business. And I remember giving them my kind of 2-week notice. And they're like, hey, man, we wish you all the best. And then I had my own, it was a Premier Mortgage branch. So I started, I had my own branch. And it was literally just us, couple laptops, couple cheap phones from, Office Depot or one of those joints. And we started, actually, at the time, we started doing a lot of mail and a lot of cold calling, which was crazy.
how old are you at this point now? So you're 26, something like that, maybe?
Yeah, probably 25, 26.
Okay. And the reason I ask too is that's ambitious in the most possible positive way, because that's, I think, the period of time too that a lot of people maybe have their first two jobs after college. I had a similar experience where it's like you learn the thing, you're learning skills along the way. You were able to start that mortgage company because you did all that other stuff. Having whatever job you had in high school, like landscaping houses didn't help me with sales, but it did at the same time, because then I was able to do grass cutting, build it into like an actual little thing. Like you build the skills along the way. So with the skills you learned, my question is, you're doing direct mail. Matt was talking about how online leads was something that he started to learn how to do. Yep. And obviously you're the killer of all the phone sales that have, like, literally one of the best I've ever met. And, so with that, the question is, what has that experience taught you, in moving through that? Like, what did that experience teach you and how have you used it like today in, continuing on?
Yeah. So one thing you just said that I know a lot of people might not know about me, but I was just talking about this being down at this mastermind. I was the nerdy kid with glasses, braces, but was a pretty good athlete and say bullied and picked on until like 9th grade. Mm-hmm. So, and I had a speech impediment where I had a teacher in 5th grade say, like, you literally will have a hard time even talking regularly, just speaking. Like I had to take speech classes. Like I stuttered really bad. I couldn't like even form sentences correctly. Mm-hmm. So I look back at all these things in my life and I think about this for just anybody. You can learn, I believe, other than me being an NFL athlete or maybe a famous singer, you truly, I believe, can be anybody. But here's why all of these things lead up to where I am today. Someone telling me I couldn't and I wouldn't. My dad did instill with me at a very young age. Don't ever let anybody say that you can do anything. And that belief, right? That belief started with me young. And even with my mom passing away early on, from 8 years old on, I had a chip on my shoulder saying, not only will I succeed, I'll exceed at a higher level because A, I wanted to make myself proud, but B, I want to make her proud. I always felt that everything I did was that reason. So I say this because I had a fire and desire that, truthfully, all this came, a lot of it from bad. Like a lot of what I'm saying, like from bad experiences, found my fire. And then I developed and turned myself into almost a different person, because then in 9th grade, when I don't have the brace, I don't have the glasses, and I'm on the team as a freshman playing football.
Right.
I'm now becoming somebody. And that's when my belief and confidence, I literally remember looking in the mirror and saying, I am this person. I believe I'm this person, and nobody will ever again tell me anything. And then it was my work ethic and my drive that allowed me, but believing in yourself. Because that's when Jay just said this again this week. And when I hear it, it really resonates. He goes, you always want to bet on me because I don't fail.
Yeah.
And that starts with, he believes in himself so much. He will never, he's like, you could back me into the biggest corner, the worst scenario. I'm going to come out smelling like rose and win every time. And he has over and over and over. And even with my own life, I think about it. I've been down many times, but I'm always going to come back.
Yeah.
So, a couple things on that. Like you in the beginning, you became who you needed to first in order to get to where you wanted to go. So like you said, you changed certain aspects about yourself, how you walk, talk, carried yourself, built up that confidence through the experience. And then just from there, repetition. And then over time, that confidence, it seems like it builds into just like an unwavering belief in yourself, because you've been there, you've done that, you've gotten through harder times. So you know that, because of those, you are now able to, for example, take on the 2022 real estate market, which is absolutely obscene. So because of all that before, having the belief in yourself, now you're able to conquer it here and now. So that's amazing.
So question for you off that too. It's something, and I absolutely agree. So you just celebrated your 42nd birthday the other week. Happy birthday. The question is, so you're 26, 27, it's important to know the story. You're working in Florida at this time, and I definitely want to continue with that. But the question that I have is, at that time, 25 to 30, were you as aware as you are? I mean, not obviously as much now because you've worked so hard for those years after, from age 30 to 42. the awareness for like someone who's 25 years old just going through it and might be seeing this video, like what are the things that you could work on now that you might have recommended? Like what, maybe a book to read, things to think about, hire a coach. Like what would you suggest to someone that's feeling stuck? Like, and they know it's like the feeling I can do better. I can do more. I don't know how to do it though.
The number one thing is get a great mentor or a great coach as fast as you humanly can. And if it's literally between, like, even when me having no money, I always found a way to still have a life. I would have ate less and paid for a coach young because I'd probably be retired by now. Yeah. So like one thing is get good advice. I know I have friends that work for companies for free, literally because they were around a mentor, and now they're multimillionaires because that they knew that person could get them from A to B in say 3 years where it would have taken them 15. Right. So A, that and B, the belief part, you know, it's kind of like with Goggins, right? I mean, for a lot of people, like, I mean, this is one of those writer downer moments. Like, he was an overweight guy that was an exterminator, and he made a choice because of a TV commercial, and everybody bet against them except one guy at the Navy and said, like, if you lose some crazy amount of weight, we'll consider you. That is all his own transformation. And that's where I just believe, like, the reason most people quit, and here's the lesson. This is the part to write down. The confidence takes time, and it's so many days of pain and so many days of not believing yourself and saying, this will not work. This is not working. But there has to be something that says I can't stop. And I literally look at these things in my own brain. To me, they're life and death. I tell myself that. If it's really hard, I say, you have to do this or you're going to die. And I literally put my mind in a setting where it's like, I start to believe. It's kind of like my own bullshit. It sounds weird, but I start to actually believe in my own brain. Yeah, I can't. And there's self-pride. I can't, because of how I told you my childhood. Just from a pride angle, I don't want to be the guy that loses, especially from a lack of effort.
And it's something that I think a lot of people do. A lot of people that are successful do, where it's, you don't have to go. You don't want to go. You have to go. It's a must. Like, it's like, I don't have to go to the gym. Like, I'm going, like or I don't want to go to the gym. I have to go. You know, it's just like, I have to do it. There's no hesitation then. And so, you know, with that first form, back through the story, you and Durbin are building it. He told us your third month in, you made like $70,000. Yep. You have a mortgage brokerage, and this is for 2006 or 7, and then 2008 9 is one of the most difficult periods of time to be in any industry in the past 100 years. And so the company wasn't doing so hot. So take us forward, through the end of that and into the next step, CDW.
The hardest thing about that is we were doing great, but what happened was we had no choice, because all the loans we had in the pipeline, which were a ton, when the lenders called us and said, we're going bankrupt today. I mean, when I say today, they're saying within hours, we have no credit line. The deals are dead. We're all dead. And that's how they're talking. Grown men are crying. I'm like, is this really this bad? That was like a bomb went off. There wasn't time. And then you just knew that day, like, there was no more money coming in. Like, it's like turning water off. Right. So we knew, based on expense and everything, we couldn't sustain it. So we knew the writing was on the wall. And at that point, then I hate to say, you almost start to prepare at the time we tried every way. I was doing crazy. One thing Matt might not have told you, I was on calls with things you wouldn't even believe. I was on a call with, like, I was doing private equity. Like, I'm watching this TV show right now about Uber on Showtime. Yeah. I was calling venture capital companies for other people I met in Florida on other cold calls to get their deals funded by VCs. Wow. And the promise of maybe me getting a small percent. And Matt warned me, he's like, you're chasing whales. This isn't the best. But I believed so much I could close a whale. Yeah. And there's been a couple things now that are real. I was just down in Florida, for Coach Burt, Gecko Brands. Yeah. They're in the store. I was on phone calls to help him get money. Like, there were other people that, like, literally I look at now and I'm like, and one big one, which I don't want to say for legal reasons, but I'll just say it was a big company that's well known. I didn't get paid. Yeah. And that would have helped us. So then kind of the dying part, though, which we did, was the best again experience, because it humbled us and we learned we will never be in this spot in the future.
You learned that you're not actually bulletproof.
Right. And I'm glad it happened younger. Correct. Right. And then younger, then it made me a little more conservative and a little like I'm still a risk taker by nature, but now I'm more calculated.
And so Matt said yesterday, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
I was to say, you cut your teeth on all that, you hit the low point, and then that confidence that you built up, even so much so that you were calling VCs to fund deals, which is pretty awesome. That confidence then led you into CDW, which I think is a great part of your story, considering how everything went down. So I guess talk through then that chapter, I guess, not to skip ahead, whatever the natural progression is though.
No. So yeah. So real quick from there, after we get done, Matt stays in the business. I'm burned out. I've been in mortgages longer. I don't see the industry as a whole. I'm like, there's no way the industry's gone. So I'm like, it's like if healthcare stopped tomorrow, which sounds silly, but it's like, I didn't even know what to do. So of course I go back to like, my pride never got in the way of earning a paycheck. So I'm doing odd and end jobs as an electrician just to get any money to eat. I mean, literally, like I'm the least handy dude in the world and I'm pulling wire and dumb shit. So, I knew I needed a real job quick. So I worked for a software company, call tracking software, very boring stuff, but I knew I believed in myself and I made some epic deals. I sold Trump properties because of that. I literally got an endorsement or a press release that's still on the internet today. If you Google Metropolis Technologies, Trump properties, it's on there. And from that, I got a sale with the United States Navy, which was enormous. So as this builds up, and now I'm getting kind of my feet back under me, CDW approached me because they were one of my resellers and said, we got a pretty cool opportunity to be a healthcare account executive. Very small territory. I think at the time the territory was maybe 2-3 million. And it was the only territory in the country that had a really hard time because Miami is a very difficult place for business. A lot of diversification. There's a ton of money, but it's a very fluent place because people are coming in and out constantly. And it's also extremely competitive. Right. Extremely. Like if you can win, my belief, if you can win in LA, Miami, and New York City, and you could sell there, you could sell anywhere in the country.
Yeah. Period. And that's the thing too. And that's why the mortgage industry crashed. I mean, in Pittsburgh, it was like, like boop. And like Miami, it was like, holy, and it just destroyed it. Exactly. And so and also in LA and also in New York and also in the big cities where it is a massive international city. I'm going to link the Metropolis Tech Trump Properties thing to the YouTube clip. So if anyone's curious, they can click on that. And DJ, DJ got worked over by former President, Mr. Donald Trump.
He did. But for that, I got a press release that got me the Navy. So I guess again,
my point was going to be exactly what you just said, because you didn't stop working. You got a job. You didn't have a gap in your resume. You got picked up by CDW. They're like, this guy's a hustler. He was in a difficult spot. He kept working. He has the skill set. We hired him. You took the Trump deal, which got you the Navy deal, which got you and it builds and builds and it builds. So it's not stopping is the key.
One thing when you said that, another thing to write down, relationships.
Yeah.
The reason I got the CDW job, yes, they knew I could sell, but I had formed very strong, trusting relationships with higher up people. So that's the other thing. I was never afraid to call or connect with.
Yep.
C-level folks, directors, presidents. Like to me, we all put our pants on the same way. Yep. Other people have a little more zeros behind their name, but I'm just making a connection, and I feel like I have a story to tell too.
You're
right?
sowing the seeds, trying to help. Your intentions are good.
That's it.
Tell me no, I'll try to help someone else.
Exactly. And I wasn't afraid to fail. Right. Like because of now everything you said, building up from a young age, I was okay to hear a no, but to me, no just meant no, not now.
Right.
And that's I always said that, right. It's just
almost
no, not now.
Exactly. So working through CDW, probably financially the most successful period, at least for that point in your life. Mm-hmm. But it's a roller coaster of a story. You built yourself up to almost you were number 2 in the company nationally.
Yep. I was 2 for healthcare. Well, actually the first year, or I'm sorry, my second full year, I get a call on Christmas, the day before Christmas Eve, that I missed President's Club, as they called it, by 0.3%. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. a whole year of work. I mean, this is like losing the Super Bowl, right? So I was like, man, so I committed on a conference call publicly and called my shot on like January 3rd or 4th. I said, I'm making President's Club. I'm coming this year. And they're like, yeah, okay, we'll see. And I'm like, no, I'm coming. And that's that belief again.
Yeah.
I hit it. I almost died doing it because I was working. I was burning both ends. I'm out to dinners every night. I'm drinking wine. I'm eating steak. I'm doing everything you probably shouldn't do. And I literally remember going to the doctor and he said, he's like, if you keep this up, you have 6 months to live. Your cholesterol is 500, your blood pressure. He's like, I don't even know how you're still walking. And I felt pretty good. You know, I definitely gained some weight. I wasn't the most confident I ever was, but I felt like, I'm fine. And there's that bulletproof thing again. Focus on health first. So when you said this is just another thing I thought about, the foundation of who we are is how good we are in business, right? So again, this is just fresh in my brain. I got to share. Coach Bert's surrounded by other very highly successful leaders. He said like 86% of the top 1% work out in the morning.
Yeah.
86% of the entire top 1% of the world begin their day with some sort of meditation or prayer or a clear mind and then into a workout. That's something I always took for granted because I was always in good shape as an athlete. I'm like, yeah, I don't really need that. Yeah, like as long as I look good in clothes, I'm okay.
Right.
Their reasons are different, right? The real reason to stay healthy is it's like they say about the race car, right? You're putting in the best fuel in the race car. You got to eat the right way and take care of yourself because you can't operate at a high level if you're not mentally and physically at your best.
And that's something that it took me a little bit to learn too. It's the Jesse, it's the one where it's like you're a billionaire sitting on the beach and someone's feeding you grapes and they're fanning you with a giant palm leaf. And if you have a sore throat, man, every time you swallow, the only thing you think about is the fact that you have a sore throat and nothing else matters. It doesn't matter a cent. It doesn't matter at all. And if you can't take care of yourself, you truly can't sustain success over a lifetime. You can be successful for 5 years and then you'll have a heart attack, and that's not obviously a desirable thing. So, you get a wake up call, obviously that doctor's appointment, you're again, I know the story. So, you're debating what am I doing here? Debating the goals, debating what I want to do with my life, and so I guess moving through CDW, experiencing the success, and then, forward from there, what was the next couple things?
Knowing I couldn't sustain the pace I was at. And the truth is at the time, believe it or not, it wasn't as much money anymore. It's weird about money. Like first job, I told you first job made nothing. PNC, I was making 19,000. Then the goal was 50,000. Then the goal was 100. And as you reach these goals, like these numbers become arbitrary, right? And then you think and here's what I would tell myself. I'll be happy when.
Exactly.
Then I thought it was 200. Here's the truth. No amount of money. Yes, it made life easier, but I also didn't do all the right things with the money. At the time I was always chasing and chasing and chasing. And I also didn't have a big, and Coach Burt talks about this. I didn't have a big because goal.
Right.
We call it a why, but I didn't have a big enough goal, but I'm going to do this because, right. I just thought like, I'm going to keep reaching levels of success. But then I realized I realized at a lunch in Miami, there's me, there's a guy who's making what I'm making in a year in a month.
Right.
There's another guy making what he's making in a week. And then there's one guy who's almost now he's a billionaire. He wasn't then a billionaire. He's doing that in a day.
Right.
So you look at the levels of wealth and it's like, and I'm looking at all these guys and they all have the same issues. We all have the same issues in our life, right? So the money, again, I was chasing. And that's why the CDW thing, again, why all these things lead up to, I'm really grateful and blessed. I felt in my heart it was either, so I make President's Club. I get the little tiny trophy, which I'm looking at right. It is this big, by the way. It's as big as a coffee cup. I'm like, for all this effort, I get a coffee cup sized trophy. And it's in my mind at the time, it was either keep doing this and you'll die.
Right.
Or figure out another path. And all I say I had, it was almost like I felt like it was God who told me, take a break.
Right.
And then I decided I'm going to travel around the world for the better part of a year. And I had a decent plan as far as where I was going to go. I wanted to go places that were beautiful and I could stretch my dollar. And that's what I did. So lived in Costa Rica 2 months. I was in Thailand a month. I was in Vienna, Austria, Ireland for St. Patrick's Day. I was in Iceland. And during all this traveling, it seems like, well, so here's one thing. That traveling was not a party trip. That was a get myself mentally, spiritually, physically, get everything back in line. And
Right.
I am proud to say I did accomplish the goal. More than that, the conversations and the relationships that I built and people I still talk to this day on like social media, it gave me perspective. So one of the biggest things when I say about perspective, you just said about health, I look at like a Steve Jobs, God rest his soul, who did pass away, right? And had all the money in the world, but health, he couldn't pay enough money to,
Can't stop it. Yeah.
right? You can't stop it. And then I'm having lunch the one day with a guy in his 40s, very wealthy individual. His dad's on the trip with him, and his dad had stage 4 cancer. And he said, instead of my dad being at home in a bed, he wants to travel.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take him to, it was like 50 countries in 50 days. Like he had a private jet. I mean, this guy had the means to do it. And he took off work and he said, whatever happens, happens. But I'm going to do this not only for my father, but for me. These memories you'll never be able to take ever from me.
And that's
everybody thought I was literally insane to do this, but it truly is one of the greatest things I've ever done in my lifetime because of the memories and the experiences.
And my question for you is 2 parts. Everyone said you were insane. Would everyone say that you're insane if you did that when you were 23 right after college? Did everyone tell that cancer patient that he was insane for doing that experience? At what age does it become inappropriate to take the time that you need for yourself? And I think that a lot of people, you said it when we started the call, you were eager to get to work. You wanted to start your career. A lot of people take a gap year. They have a period of, I don't know who I am. You're like, I'm feeling pretty confident. I want to do this job. I'm moving forward. And you didn't, what was the because? You were building. I didn't know why, and so like to take the step back, to travel the world, to experience what else is out there besides just 7 days a week, 20 hours a day. And so you're coming back from that trip. Meanwhile, Matt Durbin is driving around Pittsburgh trying to build a real estate company. And that's the next move, right? When you came back through.
Did you know when you left for the travel though? Like, did you have a plan for what was next, or it was kind of like it'll work out, we'll figure it out?
Honestly, I had zero. When I say how, like I spent a couple $100,000 on a trip. And when I say how I had no plan, when I came back to Pittsburgh, I think I had $10,000 total. Damn. And I still had at the time like a $700 a month car payment for a car I didn't even drive for a year. I had the Audi. I still had expenses. I still had, insurance. Like I was still paying stuff with no income coming in. So here's the crazy thing you say about a plan. I've known Matt so long. What I know about Matt is that he has what Jay has and some people have. It's that I'm never going to fail mentality. And I believe so much in him that it's like I would go into anything and be like, I know we're going to win. I just know it. So when he was talking to me, I want to say it wasn't until probably about month 2.5. He was making some success in real estate, but he was always a deeper thinker where, like you said, he was ahead of his time with leads online, and he was always looking for the next step. And he started talking about building a team. So this was before teams were sexy like they are now. It was like, I think we can build a real estate team. And I was like, all right, well, I'm relaxed, I'm calm. And he was really the only one I talked to because I didn't have any cell phone service. I just had WhatsApp. So the more he started talking to me, and I have so much time on my hands, I was reading about 3 to 4 books a week.
Yeah.
I mean, literally 3 or 4 a week. Right. So, I mean, because I had all the time in the world. It was crazy. I mean, An average day for me would be like, wake up, do a 5-mile run, read an audiobook by the pool, and literally, and you know, a lot of Audible books are what, 8-hour books.
Yeah.
So like I'm reading, some days I read a whole book in a day because I'm like, I'm just going to sit by the pool for 8 hours, get a tan, read a book, get bored, go lift. Like I just had all this time and I wasn't drinking. So it wasn't like I was partying. So,
just Zen master DJ.
That was it. That was it. And then Matt gave me the confidence. And then when, you know, he said, I think we can build something. And I ended up, it's crazy. I just had on my story the other day, my Facebook story. I came back here in June. So it was actually June, 4 years ago. This June will be 4 years, I should say. So when I came back, I remember being real relaxed. Actually, it was at the saloon. I meet Matt, Ashley, my dad's there, and we're like eating pizza or something, crappy for myself. I haven't even cut my hair. He's like, first of all, you got to cut this hair. You look like a homeless Will Ferrell. So I decided I'm gonna get a haircut, and then I'm like relaxed. I'm not even sure what to do work wise, and he's like, I think we'll do this. And then, again, next step of life, I start to date a girl. And in a very short amount of time, I think it was about a month and a half, 2 months, she got pregnant. So now my because goal or my why, that is when my mind took a drastic shift. And I said, I was always, pretty selfish, right? I mean, I hate to say it that way. Like I'll do anything for others and I'm very giving, but career-wise, business-wise, it was always this first, and then everything else in the back seat. So now I'm like, I really got to take care of Kate and Maverick. I made it I felt like I had a duty and an obligation to, no matter what, make sure that they were both okay. Because she was about to go through, again, have my child and go through pregnancy. And I needed to step up. So that is when literally I remember going to Matt. He was my very first phone call. And I said, Kate's pregnant. He's like, you better figure out this phone shit quick then. Right.
Yeah.
So now all this kind of full circles. Where do I get back to mentally? I've done it my whole life. I started doing this as a financial advisor. So now I'm like, now here's a new fear, right? My new fear was, I don't know how to call these real estate people. Well, why am I afraid? That's a learned skill. So I learned a script. I was intense. Here's the other point. When I say about the effort, I was every evening on YouTube for hours. I was reading scripts like crazy because I'm not a fast learner. And that's the other thing. I don't want to say it's a learning disability, but I it's hard for me to take tests and to learn quick, but I can win on repetition and just again, raw effort output. So I became a student and I would tell myself, you're not going to stop being a student until you get this thing nailed. And that's when I finally realized, when it started to click, again, what is success? A little bit of success gives you more drive. Then it was for me like, yes, this works. I know I can do this now. Then it was just full on cranking.
For sure.
Right.
And that's what people I think miss a lot of too. You hear the phrase fall in love with the process. That's what you just described though.
Yep.
And it's your because goal. You said it before too, where you're mentally you get to a place where, it's maybe not the most healthy thing sustainably, but it's like, if I don't do this, I'm going to die. Well, holy hell, it's a whole lot more intense when it's, if I don't do this, my son is going to, and that takes it to a whole nother level. You don't even feel fear anymore. You're just moving.
A lot of us have become, it's very easy now. I just feel like in this day and age, it's different. It's easy to become complacent and tell ourselves mentally, I don't need to work more than 40 hours. Right. I can still be okay. But I will say there are all times in all of our life, and this sucks. You got to pull up your pen and say, I got to go work 80 hours for a year. And if you look at everybody we coach with, right, they've all done it.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like Jay had his year, he did 525 houses or 531, and talking to him again in person this week, I don't know anybody that's ever worked like that in my life. That's 6 days a week. 6 days a week for 1 full year with no breaks, no vacations, barely celebrating a holiday. And he did it. To hit the goal, he got the trophy. But when he got the trophy, he said, there has to be a better way because this is not, and the same thing happened to him, right? When you're working that much, you're gaining weight, you're not as worried about your health.
Everything else starts to fall. Everything else starts to fall. And then eventually you can't sustain the success. And that's the thing too, where like, and I've talked to Jay about it as well, I don't want to speak for him word to word, but in some capacity, he said that was one of the most difficult, worst years of my life overall, because I did hit the goal, but that's one piece of a life, and overall it was one of the worst periods of his life because he was so hard nosed on only one thing. But the pursuit of that, now he knows where the edge is and you can bring it back, and so it's not about being over here all the time. It's as close to here as you can be. Right. And,
can I ask maybe DJ, because I think the majority of people that listen to this are, they're not on the track to selling 530 homes a year, nor do I think they want to. Can you maybe go back just a little bit and talk about when you initially got started, you're getting a little bit of success, but with that, there was a ton of adversity. There was a ton of failure on the phone. And I think that's very common. Anyone that starts out with it, like, you're not going to see success right away. I didn't. Nobody does, especially in this industry. What was some of that like? And I guess talk through the day-to-day of that adversity in the beginning, and then how you just kept going.
So I'm glad you brought that up. I am grateful and I'm gifted in the sense that I have a ton of self-motivation and discipline as well. And I can make pain, pain as fuel, but in a weird way, almost enjoy it. And that sounds weird, but like, I literally look like, my best runs are the times I'm throwing up, because I know, like, I'm pushing my body to the limits. Right. But I will say, without Matt there, I don't know if I would have been able to keep that pace, because I did it at CDW alone. I did do that by myself. I had nobody, right? But it also almost killed me. Matt was there to tell me, hey, take a step back, take a couple days, or, do this, do that. How do we leverage? So, like, because of Matt, Tim, it more quickly got us to a point to bring on Jen Clordy and bring on other agents, so that I never hit, he was more probably worried about me, hit that burnout phase like I did with CDW, where it's like, now that, the ship just tanked. So that goes back to, again, having the right people around you, or people that have done it.
Yep.
Because that's the big takeaway right there. Truly, again, having somebody that, first of all, listen to the person that's done it. There's a lot of people on the internet and Instagram that sell shit that have never done it. Ignore the noise. I'm only going to go to the guy or the girl that has walked the path, done it, and knows the best way, and say, I believe you, you've done it. Number one. Number two, a lot of people, and I'd say a very high percent, and this is just a fact, they don't have the part in their brain to keep pushing through the adversity. And if you do, look at everybody. Tiger Woods practicing 8 hours a day still. Right. The Williams sisters. We got to see the one Williams at one of our conferences. I watched that movie. It's unbelievable. The effort and what they do behind the scenes that we don't see, the sheer amount of sacrifice and effort. You know why most people don't do it? The number one reason, there is only one reason. You don't believe. We don't believe that much effort and pain will get us to where we want to be. So we all stop. Some stop after a week. My favorite one, here's the easiest analogy. Look at gyms on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
We're in. If you ask any gym owner, hey, what's it look like on week 2? I guarantee you the percentages are insane. What do you think it looks like in February 1st?
Well, it falls dramatically.
Right.
And so the thing, though, that I think is key to point out in the pattern that you described, there's a couple of things where it's like, I think, it's Ray Dalio, building a big business. It's being able to recognize patterns, identify them, and then make your own patterns to build a business, where it's like the same 15 things happens on the phone. You know what to do, you know what to say. You got around people that were doing it at an excellent level. I just did the Tony Robbins thing last week. So it's the 3 keys to success and stuff. Get around the people who are doing it at the most outstanding possible level, learn from them, you become outstanding and excellent. Full immersion, 3 weeks straight, YouTube videos every night, not doing anything else. Full immersion for a year, 6 months. Don't take the vacation, skip it once so you can go on vacation whenever you want in the future. And then it's spaced repetition. So now we do weekly calls, we do weekly training. It's spaced repetition where it's like, and once you have that baseline built, you never let it skip. Sorry, I'm not sure Tim popped off just for a quick second. So, I didn't mean to cut you there, but moving forward from like you're starting it, you're building it. How long was it just you and Matt? I don't know this part. How long was it just you and Matt before you brought on Jen, before you built it up to you guys, needed your time back? That was the ultimate goal, if I remember correctly.
That's a good question. Yeah, it's exactly right. I want to say it's hard for me to even recollect now. It seems like it's been so fast. Maybe 6 months, I think. It was pretty quick. Matt had a blueprint and a plan quickly. And we were coaching at the time too, with some great coaches. Actually, one of them, believe it or not, now with us, Cliff Freeman.
Yeah.
But that's again where I'm grateful is we've had along these years a lot of just great leaders that have done it to tell us the better way to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And leverage is the key, right? To have a leveraged business. And you nailed it. Like, why? So why would I want that? Right? Simple reason. I talk about this all the time, and it's what's my heart. I want to be the best father in the universe first and foremost. Mm-hmm. Everything else in my mind is number two. Right? So for me, it really is. Be a good person, have a path of God, and be a great father. And I know the rest is just gonna be fine. So having a bigger team now and going that path, it's for more time freedom.
Right.
And now that as I get older, you can't put a price tag on time.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the evolution of where it shifted.
Yeah. And it's amazing to think through those changes because, and I'm grateful to you and to Matt because again, I'm 30. Tim, how are you? 29 or 30? I can't remember.
I'm 29 3/4, Pete. Thank you.
And DJ's, 42, a couple years older than us. And you've helped us shrink our window of growth
100%.
Astronomically. And, something that I'm leading into then is if you could go back to the start in real estate, what would you change? Because you've built your skill set on the phone, so maybe something around that or just something in the business. Like, what would you change if you could start it again so others can learn from that?
So great question. Here's a cool line first to lead into that. Every big star was a baby star at one point, right? So when I say that,
who said that?
Coach Burt.
I thought so.
Every one of us started with sale number one, me included, right? And now me taking a step back, I would have been very diligent to build my database. And I mean really, really nurture and take care of that database as if it is your baby. Because every contact you have, every email and every cell phone number, every person you ever spoken to, if you keep in touch in a genuine and honest way, you have no idea in the future what that database can do for you. And the one person that always sticks out, that Ricky Carruth in Gulf Breeze, I mean, 16 years of growing a database. He does a newsletter. I see the newsletter. What I like about it, it's factual. It's poignant. There's no fluff. But I know him. I know Greg Harrelson, who's a killer, has a huge database business. So that would be a big I was just telling a couple folks in our own team about that. I said, don't take your database for granted.
Yeah.
Right. It's easy to say, well, I only have like 5 people. That's okay. We all had 5 people.
Absolutely.
Right. So that would be the number one thing. Number 2, I would say, even if it's not your cup of tea, I would still learn the skill of calling in real estate, FSBOs and expireds. I still think it's invaluable, even if you hate it and you don't want to do it ever. Say there's a time you needed to do it.
Right.
My thing is like this. If I can only use a slingshot to go kill a deer, and Tim says, I'm gonna teach you how to do a bow and arrow, I'm like, I don't really want to. That seems hard. If my slingshot breaks, I'm gonna be damn happy I got the bow and arrow then. And I know how to use it. So it's just a skill. It's like to me, cold calling is like how to start a fire. Right. I mean, it's just something you should all have in your arsenal. Because at the end of the day, we are salespeople. I know we hate to say like we just show houses. No, we are salespeople. However, we are salespeople that act as advisors to help buyers and sellers reach their dream of either A, home ownership, or B, get them the most money for the sale of their asset, which they've worked hard to build, and then probably into another home, right? So,
yeah. And those two things, the skill, I mean, take it back to what you said at the beginning. Your first job, financial advisor, PNC, you're moving into all the way through CDW, getting beat up on the phone by Donald Trump. It's just like, I mean, it's joking, but it's serious. The skill of calling is built over a lifetime. And even if someone watching this thinks that, well, I don't need to call for sale by owners, that's true. You don't need to call for sale by owners, but you do need to call DJ at some point to negotiate a deal. And who do you think is going to talk through that with a little bit more intensity, skill, and knowledge? The person who's been training for years. So it's maybe just a different way to think about it. It's not that you have to just do FSBOs, but being good on the phone in the best way that benefits your business, maybe is a more broad way to say it too. Because like, if you want to do buyers, if you get good at that, you know what I mean? Like, but it's the skill set that cannot be taken away from you.
Well, and that's what it gets a bad connotation. Like, everyone says the word prospect, and I was like, it's the word prospect. All it is this: communication,
right?
Good communication with any aspect of life. Whether I'm a doctor, whether I don't care what your job is. If you're a good communicator, isn't it fair to say your life's better, just in general, like even with your personal life, right? And B, what I look at I'm doing, I'm connecting. All I'm doing is the best people I know in this world that have enormous success. What are they? The best communicators, the best connectors. Isn't it scary to think like bad communication can actually start a war? I mean, think about that, right? I mean, it's really, when you look at how that's a weird thing to think about. Like, if I miscommunicate the wrong way, there could literally be a war. So
Absolutely.
in this job, people are like, well, I don't really need to get, that good at it, or I'm already great. It's, again, no matter how good I did and how good I've done, I still, and you guys know this, I pay for like a Jackie Kravitz. I'm a sponge because I'm like, I can always get better. I can always get better.
DJ, it's amazing, Tim. So my question is actually for Tim here. How many interviews have we done at this point? What DJ just said, everybody has said. Would you agree? I mean, just like talking through that, he made me think of what Hubert said too. So with the question is like, what was your experience, Tim? Because Tim, you've learned a lot on the phone from DJ. I don't make as many calls as Tim does, is really what I'm leading up to. So Tim, like, what's one of the top things that you've learned from DJ when you started to help build your business, just as an example of to what DJ's saying, and it works, you're the example,
Yeah. I mean, the process overall, like, if you break it down and, you make it seem not as daunting. So for example, it's like, okay, now you're going to pick up your phone, dial a number, hit the send button. Oh my gosh, somebody answers. Be prepared and know what to say and do it in the right way. And like he said, just connect with people. And I think the biggest thing that, helped me in the beginning was just knowing that I authentically and truly was just trying to help. Like, I had no malintent. I truly believe that what we can do as a group is going to be able to help a lot of people. And then when you have the belief that you can actually do that, then it's just a matter of delivering through it. But I think DJ did a great job with me in the beginning of, hey, there's days where you don't feel like it. You just need to do it. This is the fastest way to get business. Just get comfortable with the uncomfortable and do it in the morning. Do it the first thing in the morning. Don't have afternoon appointments. Take some time off for yourself. But I think it's good to do stuff like that you fear, because once you can conquer that, you realize, well, that wasn't so bad. Now what else can I do? What else am I getting? You're building up the wins. I mean, that's huge. So DJ, I owe a lot of that to you, definitely in the beginning. Absolutely.
Yeah. Think about what you just said though too, with what DJ began the call with, where he said the top 86% of the top 1% exercise in the morning, and then they feel all jazzed up, and then making phone calls isn't that bad. And then you do that for an hour, and then it's 11 a.m. And then you've set appointments for like 4 o'clock, where it's like, well, then you can go hit some golf balls. And that's when you live your life.
You're stacking up the wins. You might have some traction on the phone after a good workout. Then you get 2 great things that happen. And it's just like starting your day like that. I mean, I don't know a better way during this time. And I think I wanted to say something to what DJ was talking about a little bit earlier, but I think the day-to-day of this and most sales, I mean, probably most careers, like the way it's built over time is like day-to-day, sometimes monotonous stuff that isn't the sexy, awesome, like huge closings where there's a picture, it's just like the day-to-day minutia, like being able to like slog through that, like the Ricky Carruth newsletter once a week for 16 years. Like, do you think he wanted to send a one-page newspaper? Probably not. But the results speak for themselves. So
it's the Coach Bird's like, do you think Journey wants to play Never Stop Believing?
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's something I need to integrate into my day-to-day is realize like, okay, it's Wednesday. I'm tired. Well, who gives a shit? Because you still need to do the work every day. I mean, that's how it's going to grow.
So DJ Fairley, moving into the future, one of the questions I've been asking people is, not necessarily exactly, but it's, do you think about 2032 version of yourself on your 52nd birthday? If you could have, a couple of things happening in your life, maybe what would those things be? What are some goals that you're working on and building towards over the next couple phases of life when we interview you 10 years from now? We'll check
so still just number one, focusing, of course, the days I got my little boy being there presently, right? Like, and I say that where you guys know me and this is the truth. Like when I'm present, I don't like to answer my phone. I even set expectations with the clients because I could easily have the little boy next to me and be on the phone all day. That's not me being a dad. And it's not me having memories or experiences, right? Yeah. So A, B, business-wise, I truly get so much joy and gratification now by, like what Tim said, like his original intention was for buyers and sellers to help. And I believe that with my heart. And that was my intention too, which is why I still think I win at a higher level because people know I'm genuine. You can feel that. You can feel you're genuine. Like you could feel right now, everything I say, the way I say it. And right. If I'm BSing you, we have a third sense. And I think that's our soul, our passion coming out. Right. And that's the part where I think naturally attraction. Right. I think there is a natural, I really believe it's a real energy. It's we can't see it, but it's almost like this wave of energy. So
it's communication. It's the same stuff.
Right.
It's nonverbal communication. And the majority of communication is not the words you say. It's your tonality, your body language. And, we train on it every Wednesday. You can join anyone who sees this.
Exactly. So continue to help other agents though. Like now, I want to say I had 10 brand new agents. I want to see 10 new agents go from 0 to 20. Right. I want to see 10 more agents go from 20 to 40. And then I want to see agents like what just happened with Jen this year, Jen Cloherty. She kind of graduated, right? She's the first one that said, hey, I've gotten to a point, thanks to you guys, that now I'm going to fly on my own. I'm still going to be kind of under the wings of you guys a little bit, but I'm going to start my own team. And now like that is truly my passion. So, the coolest thing that is now by me helping even more people, it inherently grows my business and my company. So there's still benefit for me also financially, but I also have, again, a strong benefit of watching people younger than me. And just like you said, I want to shorten the curve from A to B. Right. And where I get even more drive and passion, and I'm excited as hell about, is there's people above me that they're looking at me the same way, like Jay and Al and John and those guys are saying, we're going to help you get from A to B even faster. And I'm like, yeah. So like, that's where now my belief is even stronger because I'm not alone. I got guys that are above me that we're financially aligned as business partners that I wouldn't bet against any of them ever.
Right. Be very careful to do that.
Right.
And that's something, it's the servant leadership attitude, and you move away from, you said it a couple minutes ago where, selfishly to more of a selfless contribution growth. Right. And that's something that I think is amazing. And I think you can look at anyone who is successful and see that, where it's someone who is waking up in the morning and they're more worried about their team, their employees, their other people than they are about themselves. Because they know inside themselves that they have the skills. If you had to walk out on the street, DJ, you'd be fine. If you had to just build it again, do it yourself, that you could because you've done it enough. But now that you've stabilized the business it's the contribution and growth. I think that's amazing, man. And I appreciate you, immensely for everything that you've done for me.
Thank you.
Likewise. Wouldn't be where I am without you guys. So I definitely echo that as well.
All right,
I really appreciate it, guys. You
Jim,
made me think just when you said about someone who really lives this life. I know you guys have listened to him, but Ed Milet.
Yeah.
Coach talked about that this week a little bit about him being around Ed Milet has changed his mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I hear guys at that big of a level say there was somebody else that changed them at that level, I listen a lot more intently. And what's Ed's basis, right? Everybody he brings on, he finds their superpower. What is their true gift? He shows them what that is. Then he can quantify and say, now I'm going to show you how to use your superpower and make a good amount of money for you and your family. When you can do that for somebody, the loyalty is through the roof, right? I mean, like he doesn't lose employees.
Yeah.
He's building an army of true believers. And why? Same thing. He's doing it for all the right reasons. He doesn't start with saying, well, I got to hit X amount of money this year for my company and rah, 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 everyone go do this.
Mm-hmm.
He starts by saying, everyone who comes in the company, what is your superpower? What do you want? Here's what I believe it is. And here's how I believe you can do good with your superpower. Mm-hmm. That's very different, right? That's not, most companies don't do it like that. Yeah, you're just a spoke in the wheel. And by the way, I saw it at CW. I'm a great company, but I will say, like, when I left, they didn't skip a beat.
No.
It's not like they're like, oh, you know what? We're not going to do the same numbers. DJ Fairley left. I was replaced like that.
Yep.
And in sports, we see it every day, right?
Literally every day.
So-and-so gets in trouble. What are they doing? The next day, there's a new quarterback, a new linebacker. These bigger businesses just sometimes, so, I say that we're just trying to build something different, right? As Jay says, one big fire. When all of our fires come together, we got one big fire.
Yeah, and you can't stop it.
That's it.
I like it.
No, I love it, man. Tim, do you have any other questions for Mr. DJ?
No, I think that was a good way to end it. I think, thank you so much for sharing all that. And
yeah, thank you guys.
We're excited to continue to grow with you. So
for sure. All right,
I appreciate it.